The station was quiet that night, too quiet, and the human engineer named Rian felt something was wrong, even before he opened his eyes. He slept in a small metal room on level 9, far from the main palace area. Normally he heard the soft hum of machines, the steady pulse of engines, and occasional footsteps from workers. But tonight, there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just a strange cold feeling, like someone was watching him. Rian slowly pushed himself up on the bed, blinking in the dim blue light. At first, everything looked normal. His tools were stacked in the corner, the holoscreen was dark, and the door was sealed. He rubbed his eyes, telling himself he was only tired. But then he heard it. A soft sound. Like fabric brushing metal. He froze. Someone was inside his room. Rian turned his head, controlling his breath, and that was when he saw a small glowing shape in the darkest corner. It wasn't moving. It wasn't speaking. It just stood there, silent and still. His heart jumped. For a moment, he thought it was a malfunctioning robot. But robots didn't breathe, and he could hear small, shaky breaths coming from the glowing figure. Slowly, the figure stepped out of the shadows, and Rian felt the shock hit him like cold air. It was her. The one every human whispered about but never spoke to. The alien princess. The shy princess who avoided all humans, who never left her guarded palace, who hardly spoke to anyone outside her council. She was standing in his room. Her violet skin shimmered softly in the blue light, and her eyes glowed with fear, not anger. Her long hair floated lightly around her face like it was underwater. She looked terrified, and for a moment, Rian wondered if he should speak first. But she moved before he could decide. "I am sorry," she whispered, her voice thin and trembling, "I did not know where else to go." Rian stared at her, unable to find a single word. He had seen her only from a distance, always surrounded by guards. She never approached humans. She never approached anyone. She was known for being gentle, shy, and quiet. But right now, she was trembling so hard that her hands shook. "How did you get in here?" he asked softly. She looked at the door, then at him, as if checking if she was truly safe. "I used the old service vents," she said, her voice barely a breath, "they are not monitored anymore." Rian felt a sting of confusion. Why would a princess crawl through vents just to reach a human engineer? Something was very wrong. "What happened?" he asked. Her eyes widened, as if she expected that question but feared it at the same time. "I cannot tell you everything," she whispered, "not yet. They are watching. They are everywhere. If they know I am here, they will." She suddenly stopped speaking, her eyes snapping toward the door. Rian heard it too. A loud metallic clang from outside. Footsteps. Heavy and slow. Not casual footsteps. Searching footsteps. The princess's face went pale, and she stepped closer to Rian, gripping his arm with surprisingly cold hands. "Please," she begged, "hide me." Rian didn't think. Instinct took over. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the tiny maintenance closet beside his bed. It was barely big enough for one person, let alone two, but they squeezed inside, pressing close as the door quietly clicked shut. The room outside fell silent. Rian could feel the princess shaking beside him. He tried not to breathe too loud. He tried not to move. Through the thin metal door, they heard the slow scrape of boots. Someone was scanning the room. Someone powerful enough to walk into a human engineer's quarters without knocking. A shadow passed under the door. Rian's heart beat so loud he feared the guard could hear it. The princess's glowing eyes stared at the door, wide with terror. She held her breath and pressed herself against the wall. The footsteps stopped right outside the closet. Rian felt a cold wave of fear wash over him. If the guard opened the door, both of them were done. The princess would be taken. And Rian, he didn't want to imagine what would happen to him. The footsteps stayed for a full 10 seconds that felt like 10 minutes. Then slowly, they moved away. But neither of them moved. Neither breathed. Only after the guard's steps faded into the distance did the princess let out a small broken breath. Rian opened the closet door and helped her out, watching her shoulders finally loosen a little. "They are hunting me," she whispered, "and they will not stop." Rian swallowed hard. "Why? You're the princess. Why would they hunt you?" She shook her head, tears shining in her eyes. "Because I know something I should not," she said, "a truth that can destroy everything." Rian felt a chill run down his spine. He had no idea what she meant, but he could see in her eyes that she wasn't lying. "And humans," she whispered, looking directly at him, "you play a part in this truth." Before he could ask what she meant, another distant alarm echoed through the station, louder and sharper than any he had heard before. The princess stepped closer, her voice trembling but determined. "I came here because I trust you," she said, "and because I can no longer run alone." Rian looked at her frightened face, the glowing eyes full of secrets, and he realized this night was only the beginning of something far bigger than he ever imagined. Something that terrified even the royal blood of an alien empire. Rian stared at the princess, still trying to understand what was happening, but she looked more scared than before, and her eyes kept jumping toward the door as if danger could enter at any moment. She wrapped her arms around herself, shaking softly, and for a second, Rian saw how young she actually was, how fragile she looked despite being royalty. "Tell me what's going on," he said quietly, "I can't help you if I don't know." She opened her mouth to speak, but her voice caught, and she turned away, almost as if the words were too heavy to say. A soft buzzing sound filled the room, coming from the ceiling. The princess instantly stepped back in fear. "They activated the watchers," she whispered, "we must move now." Rian looked up. Tiny metal eyes were opening inside the ceiling vents, old surveillance units that hadn't worked for years. But they were glowing now, fully active, scanning the room with thin red lines. Someone wanted to find her badly. "Follow me," Rian said, grabbing his toolkit and pulling open a floor panel he had repaired earlier that week. It led to a hidden maintenance corridor under the station, narrow but dark. Perfect for hiding. The princess hesitated, looking at the small space, but the watching sensors were lowering from the ceiling like insects. She had no choice. She slipped inside, and Rian followed, sealing the panel above them. The tunnel was tight, cold, and dusty. Rian crawled ahead, listening to her breaths behind him. Every few seconds she whispered, "Are they coming, or, do you hear anything?" Her fear was real, too real for a princess who lived in a palace surrounded by guards. After crawling for minutes, they reached a small chamber filled with old wires and forgotten tools. Rian sat up, wiping dust from his hands, while the princess sat across from him, hugging her legs, her glowing eyes reflecting the faint light. "Now tell me," Rian said softly, "why are they hunting you?" She looked at him, her expression full of fear and sadness. "Because of something I discovered," she whispered, "something buried deep in the royal archives, something my family never wanted anyone to know." Rian leaned closer. "What did you find?" The princess closed her eyes, gathering strength, then opened them slowly. "Humans are not weak," she said, her voice trembling, "your people are not as harmless as the Empire says." Rian blinked, confused. That made no sense. "What do you mean?" She swallowed hard. "There are old records, stories, warnings. My ancestors wrote about humans long before this station was built. They described humans as dangerous, powerful, unpredictable." Rian almost laughed, but he saw her serious expression and stopped. "Humans. Powerful? No offense, but your people are way more advanced." "That is what they teach," she said, shaking her head, "but it is not the truth. Humans once saved entire worlds. Humans once changed the path of stars. But the Empire erased that history." Rian felt a knot of disbelief tightening inside him. That's impossible, he said, we can't even control half our own ships without help from your tech. The princess leaned slightly forward. Because you have forgotten, she whispered, but your true nature still exists inside you. Her voice dropped even lower. And the Empire fears that one day it will wake up again. Rian felt a chill run through him. He had never believed in legends or old myths. He was just an engineer. A simple worker. Nothing special. But the way she looked at him, it was like she saw something he didn't. You said someone is hunting you, he said slowly. Who? The princess hesitated. My own guards, she confessed, and members of the High Council. Rian stared at her in shock. They want to stop the truth from spreading, she whispered, they want to stop me before I can tell anyone. Rian shook his head, trying to process it. But why come to me? I'm nobody. Her eyes softened, and she moved closer. You are not nobody, she said, you are the first human I observed. The first one whose actions did not match the records. He frowned. You were watching me? She nodded shyly. For months, she said, you helped others, even when you were tired. You stayed calm when the machines broke down. You never used fear to get what you wanted. Humans in the old records were described as fierce, untamed. But you were kind. Rian didn't know what to say. He had never thought kindness could be a reason to be chosen. Then what made you risk everything to come here? He asked. She looked away again, her hands twisting nervously. I found a prophecy, she finally said, one that says the fall of the Empire will begin when a princess stands beside a human. Rian felt his breath catch. And now, they think that human is you. Before Rian could respond, a loud metallic bang echoed through the tunnel above them. Dust rained from the ceiling. The princess grabbed Rian's arm in panic. They found us, she whispered. Another bang hit, harder this time. Lights flickered. The metal above them buckled. Rian stood up quickly and grabbed her hand. We need to move, he said. But before they could run, a cold robotic voice echoed through the vents. Princess detected. Human companion detected. Prepare for extraction. The princess's eyes filled with terror. They won't let us escape, she whispered. Rian tightened his grip on her hand. Then we'll make them. And the metal above them cracked open. The metal panel above them cracked again, louder this time, and a thin beam of white light cut through the darkness of the tunnel. Dust fell like sand as the opening widened. Rian stepped in front of the princess without thinking, shielding her with his body, even though he knew it would not stop whatever was coming. The robotic voice repeated, cold and emotionless, Princess detected. Human detected. Prepare for extraction. The princess held Rian's arm tightly, her breath fast and shaky. Rian could feel her fear through her trembling fingers, but beneath that fear, there was something else, a strange warmth, almost like energy. The panel finally broke apart, and a tall figure dropped into the tunnel, landing on metal with a heavy thud. It wasn't a normal guard. It was a sentinel, one of the Empire's elite hunting machines. Its armor was black and smooth, its eyes two glowing circles of red light. Long robotic claws extended from its hands, clicking slowly as if testing the air. Rian whispered, move back, slowly. But the princess didn't move. Her eyes widened as if she recognized the machine. That is the royal model, she whispered, it was never activated in my lifetime. The sentinel stepped forward, scanning them. Target confirmed. Do not resist. Rian grabbed the princess's hand and ran down the tunnel. The machine lunged forward instantly, smashing its claws into the ground where they had been only seconds before. The tunnel shook. Sparks flew. Left. Rian shouted. They ran blindly through the dark, crawling over pipes, stumbling through narrow passages, the sound of metal claws scraping behind them growing louder and louder. The princess breathed heavily. We cannot outrun it, she said, panic in her voice. "We don't outrun it," Rian said, pulling open a loose vent grate, "we lose it." They slipped into the vent just as the sentinel crashed into the tunnel wall. The vibration shook the air around them like thunder. Rian pulled the grate shut, hoping the darkness inside the vent would hide them. For a moment, there was silence. Then the sentinel spoke again, its voice filling the tunnels. "Princess, your resistance is illogical. The Empire requires your compliance." The princess pressed her hands against her mouth to stop herself from breathing too loudly. Rian put a hand on her shoulder, guiding her slowly deeper into the vent system. The metal creaked behind them as the sentinel walked, scanning, searching. They crawled forward until the vent opened into another chamber, an old storage bay filled with silent machines coated in dust. Rian helped the princess down, and they both crouched between the metal crates, listening. The princess whispered, "They will not stop until they have me." Rian studied her face. He had seen fear before, but this was something deeper, something that came from years of living under control, and finally breaking away. "You said the prophecy talks about a princess and a human," Rian whispered, "but why me? What makes them think I'm important?" She hesitated, glancing at his hands. "Because, you already changed," she said softly. Rian frowned. "Changed how?" She swallowed, choosing her words carefully. "When you touched me earlier, I felt something, a spark. A human spark. The old records say that when a human's emotions rise too fast, a hidden ability awakens." Rian nearly laughed. "I don't have any ability." Her eyes stayed serious. "You do. Your people always did. The Empire only made you forget." Rian shook his head, but he couldn't deny what he felt a moment ago when he stood in front of the sentinel. A strange warmth. A pulse under his skin. Something he couldn't explain. Before he could ask more, a soft metallic click echoed from the shadows. Rian froze. The princess froze. A red light appeared behind the crates. The sentinel had found them. It stepped out slowly, its red eyes focused directly on the princess. Its claws extended, clicking rhythmically. Extraction beginning. Rian grabbed a metal rod from the floor, but the sentinel easily slapped it away, sending sparks through the air. The princess screamed as the machine reached for her. "Stop!" Rian yelled, grabbing the machine's arm with both hands. He felt something ignite inside his chest, a burning sensation, like fire rushing through his veins. The metal under his grip glowed faintly, then brighter. The sentinel jerked back, its arm smoking. The princess stared at him in shock. "Rian, your eyes." "What about them?" he gasped. "They are glowing." Rian looked down at his hands. A faint blue light pulsed under his skin, like energy trying to break free. The sentinel staggered, analyzing him. "Unknown human anomaly detected," it said, adjusting threat level. It lunged again, faster this time, but Rian moved without thinking. He grabbed the princess, pulling her behind a fallen machine, and the sentinel strike hit the metal instead, tearing through it like paper. The princess whispered, "Your power is waking up." Rian's heart pounded. He didn't know what was happening inside him, but he knew one thing. If the sentinel captured her now, everything was over. He stood up again, placing himself between her and the machine. The blue light in his hands grew brighter, filling the chamber with an eerie glow. The sentinel paused, recalculating. Human power level rising. Risk unacceptable. Initiating termination protocol. The princess grabbed Rian's arm, her eyes full of fear and hope at the same time. "Rian, if your power is awakening, you must use it now," she whispered, "it's the only way to survive." Rian took a deep breath, his hands shaking with energy. The sentinel charged. And the entire room exploded with light. The chamber filled with white-blue light so bright that Rian could not see his own hands. The metal around him vibrated like it was alive, humming with a strange force. The princess covered her face, her hair lifting from the energy that burst out of Rian's body. For a moment, everything froze. Then the light snapped back into Rian like a breath being sucked in. Silence followed. Rian blinked, trying to focus. The sentinel was still standing, but its chest armor was cracked open, glowing with deep burns. Smoke drifted from the machine as it tried to stabilize itself. The princess stared at Rian, her eyes wide with shock. "That was not normal energy," she whispered, "that came from you." Rian stepped back, confused and scared. His hands still glowed faintly, like embers of a dying fire. "I don't know what I did," he said, "I didn't even." A sudden screech cut him off. The sentinel's red eyes brightened again. Its voice glitched, breaking into sharp robotic cracks. "Human threat level, critical. Regenerating attack protocols." Rian's fear returned immediately. "It's still coming," he said. The princess grabbed his wrist. "Then we run." They dashed through the storage bay, weaving between broken machines and dusty crates. Behind them, the sentinel's heavy footsteps shook the ground. Every step sounded harder, angrier, like the machine was adjusting to survive his blast. Rian felt the strange energy fade from his body. Whatever power he had used, it wasn't stable. It came like a storm and vanished just as fast. They reached a narrow door at the back of the chamber. Rian slammed his hand against the control panel. Sparks flew, but the old door slid open, just wide enough for them to squeeze through. They entered another dim tunnel, colder than the last. Pipes lined the walls, dripping with condensation. The air smelled like rust and old chemicals. "Where are we?" Rian asked. The princess looked down the long hallway, her glowing eyes scanning the shadows. "The forgotten lower halls," she said, "most people don't even know they exist." The door behind them shook violently as the sentinel tried to break through. Rian's breath quickened. "It's not giving up." "It will not," she said, "not until I am taken, or destroyed." Rian stared at her in disbelief. "Destroyed? They would go that far?" She nodded slowly, fear tightening her voice. "The prophecy scares them. They fear humans even more. They do not want the old truth to rise again." Rian felt anger growing inside him. Not the wild anger from the blast earlier, this was different. This was controlled. Heavy. Purposeful. "They can't control everything," he said sharply, "they can't control you." The princess looked at him for a long second, her expression softening. "You are not what they described in the old records," she whispered, "you are something else." Before Rian could ask what she meant, the door finally gave way. Metal shrieked. Pieces flew across the hallway. The sentinel stepped through the broken frame, its claws sparking, its eyes locking onto them. Target reacquired. Rian grabbed the princess's hand again and ran down the hall. The corridor twisted like a maze, turning sharply into old engineering rooms and abandoned labs. The sound of the sentinel's claws clicking on the metal floor echoed behind them like slow, steady death. They burst into a large chamber filled with old lights, dusty consoles, and a huge circular machine in the center. The princess stopped suddenly. "This room. I remember this," she whispered, "this is where I found the records." Rian looked around. "Then maybe there's something here that can help us." The princess hurried to a console, wiping dust off the screen. It flickered weakly to life, showing symbols of the old empire, symbols no one used anymore. She began typing quickly, her fingers trembling. "What are you doing?" Rian asked. "Trying to unlock the message again," she said, "it contains the whole truth, not just about humans, but about the empire itself." The sentinel's footsteps grew louder. Rian looked back at the hallway. The machine's red glow approached like a fire in a tunnel. "Whatever you're doing, do it faster." The console beeped faintly. The screen changed. A hologram burst into the room, an old imperial figure, dressed in ceremonial robes, speaking in a deep, ancient voice. The words echoed through the chamber. The humans are not our slaves, they are our greatest fear. Rian froze. The princess covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. This is the voice I heard before, but no one believed me. The hologram continued. If the humans ever remember who they were, the empire will fall. Rian felt the floor drop inside him. Everything he had believed, everything humans had been told, was a lie. The sentinel entered the chamber, claws raised. Princess. Human. Unauthorized access detected. Rian stepped in front of the princess again, even though he knew he might not have enough power to stop it. The princess grabbed his hand. Rian, your power, it reacts to danger. To emotion. Rian swallowed hard. What if it doesn't come back? She held his hand tighter. It will, she whispered, because you are human, and humans rise when they are pushed to the edge. The sentinel charged. The hologram flared brighter. And a deep rumble shook the entire room, as if something ancient beneath the station had just awakened. The chamber trembled like a living creature waking from a long sleep. Dust drifted from the ceiling, old lights flickered wildly, and the hologram of the ancient emperor glowed brighter than before. His voice filled the room, shaking the air around Rian and the princess. Humans carry a forgotten fire, a power that once shaped the stars. The sentinel ignored the hologram completely. It lunged forward, its claws slicing through the air toward Rian. Rian stepped back, pushing the princess behind him. His hands glowed faintly again, but the light was weak, nothing like before. Why isn't it working? He whispered in panic. The princess grabbed his arm. Because you are afraid of yourself, afraid of what you might become. Rian clenched his fists, trying to summon the strange fire, but the sentinel moved too fast. It swiped at him, and he barely dodged. The claw grazed his shoulder, tearing through his jacket and burning the skin beneath. He stumbled back with a gasp. Rian, the princess cried. He forced himself up, ignoring the pain. The sentinel's eyes glowed brighter as it advanced like a hunter closing in on its prey. Human anomaly unstable, it said, termination recommended. It raised its arm for a killing strike. The princess stepped forward without thinking. Stop. Take me instead. Rian grabbed her wrist. Don't. But she pulled free, her glowing eyes filled with heartbreak. If they take you, they will use you. The Empire will fear you. They will turn you into a weapon against your own people. Rian shook his head, anger rising. I won't let them take you either. The sentinel ignored their voices and moved closer, claws shining. The hologram behind them shifted and changed again. A new voice, older, deeper, colder, echoed through the chamber. If the princess and a human join, the Empire shall tremble. The sentinel paused for half a second, its processors analyzing this line. That half second was enough for the ground beneath them to rumble again. A deep crack split the floor, glowing with blue light, the same light that came from Rian's hands. The princess gasped. It's responding to you, the old machine is reacting to your power. The sentinel grabbed this moment and lunged. Rian braced himself, fear and anger hitting him at once. His heart hammered in his chest. And then it happened. A pulse exploded out of him, but this one was different. Stronger. Wilder. The blue energy shot from his body in a wave, ripping through the air like a storm. The sentinel was thrown back violently, smashing into a wall. Sparks flew as the machine collapsed, twitching. Rian staggered, breathless. His whole body felt heavy, but the energy around him did not fade this time. It wrapped around him like a faint, glowing aura. The princess stared at him as if seeing a legend come to life. You really are one of them, she whispered, trembling, a human who can awaken the old fire. Rian didn't understand anything anymore. His head spun. What am I becoming? A threat, a new voice answered from the shadows. Both of them turned sharply. A figure stepped into the room, tall, wearing dark royal armor with a crest that only one family could carry. The princess's face drained of color. "General Varkas," she whispered, her voice shaking. Rian didn't know who he was, but the way she said the name told him everything he needed to know. This was the man who wanted her captured. This was the man behind the hunt. The general stepped forward slowly, his eyes cold and full of calculation. "So it is true," he said softly, "the princess ran to a human. A human who carries the old power." Rian's fists tightened, blue light sparking again. The general watched calmly, like he was observing a tool, not a person. "You should not exist," the general said to Rian, "your kind should never awaken." Rian stepped in front of the princess. "You're not taking her." The general smiled slightly. "You think you can stop me? You do not even know how to control your own energy." The princess moved closer to Rian, her voice desperate. "Rian, we need to leave. Now." But the general lifted a device in his hand, small, metallic, glowing with red light. "It is too late," he said, "your fate has already been chosen." The hologram behind them flickered violently as the device activated. The entire room shook again, harder than before. The blue crack in the floor widened, releasing a blast of ancient energy that pushed everyone back. The princess screamed as the blast hit her. Rian grabbed her hand, pulling her close as debris fell from the ceiling. The general braced himself against the wall, unfazed. "You cannot escape destiny," he said through the chaos, "the empire will come for both of you." Rian felt the floor beneath them split further. The ancient machine under the chamber roared awake, like a giant beast opening its eyes. The princess looked up at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "Rian, something is coming, something old, something powerful." The ground dropped suddenly. The floor gave way completely. Rian and the princess fell into the blinding blue light below. The general watched them disappear, his voice echoing after them. "This is only the beginning." And the screen fades to black.